Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Del Molino, and I'm the Senior Director of Virtual Care and Clinical Affairs here at the Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association. I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Take a Simple Step, Become a Healthcare Planning Ambassador. A few logistics before we start. If you have questions during the webinar, please enter them into the chat feature as we are in listen-only mode. The questions will come directly to us, and we will do our best to address as many as we can at the end of the presentation. I also want to take a moment now to thank MHA's 2025 annual sponsors and strategic partners for their support in underwriting today's webinar, which is just one of many events we have offered throughout the year to connect our members with leading experts to help address timely issues, including conversations regarding advanced care planning, as we are doing today. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers from Honoring Choices today. Ellen M. DePaula is the President and CEO of Honoring Choices Massachusetts. Ms. DePaula is an attorney with a former practice in guardianship and conservatorship and estate planning. Ellen has worked extensively in helping adults and families create personal healthcare plans as a Respecting Choices certified instructor. She convenes the Consumer Health Equity Advisory Committee, co-hosts with MHA the Guardianship and Chronic and Serious Illness Advisory Group, and is an appointed member of the Mass Office of Elder Affairs POLST Steering Committee. Thank you so much today for being here, Ellen. We are really looking forward to this discussion, and I want to hand it over to you now to help us get started.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here and to work with you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this lovely spring day. I'm Ellen DePaula. As Adam said, I'm the President and CEO of Honoring Choices Massachusetts. And we'd love to tell you a little bit about how we've been working together, bringing our forces together for the Simple Step program and using the Honoring Choices tools and all of the tools that you have. We've got some great new tools for you. Our mission here is to really make this easier for you, to really have the tools at your fingertips when you need them. So I'm going to go through the slide deck, and as Adam said, a lot of this information will be familiar to you, but we'd like to hear your questions and your comments and things that have been getting in your way in terms of working with this, and that these tools are only as good as they're good for you. So we're happy to do that straight through the presentation. Let me share the slide deck and we'll get started. Yes. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, Honoring Choices is a consumer-based organization. We've been around 12 or 13 years now. I come to this as a guardianship attorney. I had a practice in guardianship law and really was concerned that most of the folks I was working with who were in front of the court now, because they hadn't taken a time when one of the folks, like say in a couple where the gentleman had had a serious illness or a stroke now and wasn't able to do a healthcare proxy while he had the ability to do that. It was a 5-minute document. He knew he was going to appoint his wife. But what they said to me, what I kept hearing is, I didn't know we could do this. I didn't know we had to do it. I didn't think we thought we had to use a lawyer. All kinds of barriers. And I thought, boy, this is silly. So I closed my law practice and opened Honoring Choices Massachusetts. And we're consumer-based. And our idea is to say, it's your healthcare and it's your choice. But as we help people go on this journey of healthcare planning, we know that it's equally important to support all of the folks who interact with them, all of the healthcare providers and community providers. So 12 years ago, I think it was a nurse who came to us and said, do you have a certificate for this? Because I'm constantly having to defend the information I have with my care teams who she felt didn't have the right information. So that's how the healthcare planning ambassador piece came up. We wanted to give you the most reliable, up-to-date, accurate information on healthcare planning, and with that, some of Massachusetts law. So we're delighted to do this with you today and tell you how we've been working together with the Simple Steps campaign and supporting that campaign. So our agenda today is pretty simple. We'll just go over some basic information on Honoring Choices and our structured approach to planning and what an ambassador does. We'll review the Getting Started Toolkit, and that's been the primary tool for our ambassadors to say, let's just start with a simple conversation. And it really folds into the Simple Step campaign perfectly. And then we wanted to show you those next steps toolkit, because we also know you work with folks who are managing chronic illness and serious illness. So we want to show you where those tools are to be able to have those seamless conversations from simple to serious illness. I want to mention our new guardianship, conservatorship, and alternatives webpage. Again, if this is a population you're working with, it can change the whole dynamic of planning, and show you quickly some tools for serious illness care conversations that we use all the time. And again, any questions, please just put them right in chat. So Honoring Choices, for those who don't know, again, we're consumer oriented, but we're community based. So our job is to say, let's empower everyone to know, first of all, that they have the right to direct their healthcare choices, no matter what their illness is, even no matter what their capacity is, and to be able to make a healthcare plan, to write it down, to get the best possible care right now, today, and over their lifetime. And we work with folks from 18 and above, because that's what Massachusetts law says, right? That's when you have the right to start this. Everything we talk about today is on the Honoring Choices website, but we are really been so grateful and honored to be building a partnership and a network throughout our 12 years. So those are our partners. They're for every part of the healthcare and community sectors. And although everyone does something a little different, the mission in working together is the same. How do we provide equal access to these healthcare planning tools and the right information across the whole care continuum? So the partners just take what they need in terms of the tools that we have and the trainings that we have. They start the early and ongoing conversations, and they do the work in connecting people to local care. And again, we are delighted to, MHA has been a partner for 12 years, actually. Pat Noga was the first to say, yeah, let's work together. We're so grateful for that. And we've been working with Adam on the Simple Step campaign for almost 2 years plus now. And the whole idea was to meld the idea of the simple conversations with us taking a simple step. How could we help you do that? Adam put together all these cross-continuum partners who were also Honoring Choices partners. And the result of that has been amazing. In this campaign, you can use the Honoring Choices planning tools, or you can use your own tools. There's no have-tos with it, but they're there as a backup. And the idea is to choose a healthcare agent and complete a healthcare proxy. That's the simple step. And for folks who can't choose that agent, and we know that's a lot of people, to be able to offer them the next step, which is the personal directive of living will. And we'll show you what that is today and how to use it. The other good news in working together that's come out of this is in the last year or so, the Mass Department of Public Health has partnered with both of us to promote a DPH statewide healthcare proxy campaign. So first time ever, they've been able to do that campaign. And we've been both supporting them with our tools and our programs. And the good news that I just heard recently was that, as you know, Massachusetts is moving from the MOLST form, MOLST, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment, to the PULSE form, portable orders for life-sustaining treatment. I'm sure you've heard about it. If not, you will. And nothing's going to happen for another year for you, but it's in process. There are pilots in process. And the good news we heard yesterday was that they are also going to use the Honoring Choices tools alongside the Ariadne Labs Serious Illness Conversation Guide. And Ariadne Labs is now developing educational modules with both of our tools in it. And that's going to all come out for you. We suspect and hope that everyone's going to be able to reach to online educational modules around how to have serious illness conversations and how to use a PULSE form. So that's exciting news coming up. And as we keep working together, I think we'll be able to support everybody even better. So right now, today, we're going to talk about the healthcare planning ambassadors. This is a pretty simple educational session that we've been doing for the last 12 years. And it's taking the tools and information we have that's been growing with everybody's information coming in and making it better, and offering folks a certificate that says you're a healthcare planning ambassador. It's a honoring choices certificate, but it's interesting that it's really grown. Um, Part of the mission, as you know, is to have the accurate information and to be able to deliver that and to have those tools at your fingertips. So that's what ambassadors do. They can feel really confident in the tools and in the information to engage adults in planning this conversations, just to help them make a plan as you can, whatever in the scope of your role. It's really different for everybody. And then do whatever you do normally to provide and connect people to care that honors those care choices. So our program here is called Who's Your Agent? And there are so many pieces to Massachusetts law. We just decided a long time ago to get a structured approach to healthcare planning. And what we think we have now after 12 years is a really reliable, accurate, shared knowledge base that all our partners are using and all our consumers are using. So the tools are both for adults and for care professionals. You can always start on our website on the navigation bar, it's resources, and everything we talk about today is right there. So we have a step-by-step process for you that actually blends together simple and serious illness conversations and some free downloadable toolkits, which are very popular with consumers, and ways to personalize and update that plan over time. So the healthcare planning process is, we came up with this a few years ago because it is complicated in Massachusetts what the law is. And we hope this is a roadmap for good care. And what we do is we worked with our partner at Ariadne Labs, Dr. Eric Frome, and developed and adapted some of his work here on this inverted triangle. So you see it starts with the conversations on the left, starts with simple conversations, and then starts to graduate to helping people manage serious illness and then and end-of-life care. And on the right side are your Massachusetts documents. So for our ambassadors, we're really just looking at those first two squares. Let me show you here. It really works well with the Simple Step campaign and our model of a simple conversation. So as ambassadors, we're just saying, can you do this? How do you fold this into your work? And maybe you already do, which is terrific. Hopefully these tools will help. The first and biggest part of that inverted triangle is to name an agent, right? Name a person who can be your advocate to make healthcare decisions for you when you're not able to do that yourself. And if you're able to do that in Massachusetts, we must appoint that person in a document called a healthcare proxy. So you see how it works. And that second piece is really then talking to important people about your choices, your care preferences, your goals for care. And there are two documents which we try to focus on. First is that personal directive or living will, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. We'll show you what the honoring choices one looks like. And the durable power of attorney has become really important, especially in our hospitals when discharging folks to post-acute care. If they're not able to make their own decisions about their finances and their money, and have not appointed a durable power of attorney, an attorney in fact is what it's called, we're looking at a legal proceeding called a conservatorship. So that's just become more important, and we'll show you that document and the fact sheet we have for it, especially if you're seeing people whose capacity is waning, their ability to make decisions, they have a diagnosis where that's likely going to happen. It's a big red flag to be able to say, okay, let's make sure they have two documents in place, a healthcare proxy and that durable power of attorney, to pick a legal decision maker and a financial decision maker. And I think that's going to greatly help the flow of care transitions across our systems. But as ambassadors, this is the focus for you. And again, it might be something you already do, but let's show you our tools and hopefully this will make it even easier. So in our Who's Your Agent program, it's that structured approach to planning. You can drop into this approach at any point in time with any person. It's a very flexible program. It has two toolkits, the Getting Started kit, which the ambassadors really focus on that kit to start a simple conversation for a healthcare proxy and a personal directive. But we also know you're working with lots of folks across that care continuum. So we want to show you where the tools are for the Next Steps toolkit to build on those conversations and add documents that manage chronic illness and as people age and live well with serious illness. As an ambassador, you can just have this in your toolkit and in the background. These are the 5 documents that we look at in the Who's Your Agent program, divided into those toolkits. And so, as we said, for simple conversations, we're looking at 2 different types of documents: a legal document, that healthcare proxy, and a living will is what anything in the state that's called a living will, whether a lawyer does it or whether we do it. It is a personal document. We don't have a law that backs up this living will as something that legally binds our healthcare providers. What we have instead is a personal directive, and we made one up many years ago because we wanted people to have it, to be able to write down what it is they want for care. And then the Next Steps Toolkit is, it's a different type of toolkit. It's really spread all over the website, but that's where we include those next 3 documents. And we'll talk about the durable power of attorney. And then I'm sure you're very aware of the 2 medical orders, the Comfort Care Do Not Resuscitate order, still very valid, and the MOLS form is still going to be valid for quite some time still, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. Now, I'm going to assume this group knows most about it. It's interesting, we do really hundreds of these trainings over the years, and I'm always amazed at how many groups who work directly with patients or clients don't use the MOLS, don't know what it is still. So I'm sure you hear about that on your end as well. So part of our education is to make sure everybody knows it. I haven't opened up the chat. Adam, is there anything we need to answer at this point?
No, just folks are asking questions with regards to receiving the slides after the event. So all set.
Thank you. Okay, terrific. So those are the 5 documents we focus on here, and they've really been tried and true in the last 12 years around how to make your own solid plan. So as I said, our ambassadors just start with a simple conversation, and that was one of our thoughts from early on is, why are we always, what's the pressure on starting with serious illness? Let's just hold it. Unless people are right there and we need to do it in a crisis, then of course we do it there. But even our partners who are in palliative care and hospice care have told us that they start with simple because it helps just to offer people some basic information and some control around making a choice around who they want for care. So our Getting Started Toolkit, if you haven't seen it, it's a very popular do-it-yourself consumer kit, but people always need help. So, but it's meant to be a 1, 2, 3 for consumers to do on their own. The first step is always going to be asking, who's your agent? Are you able to choose a person to be that advocate for you, to be there at any point in your life trajectory where they can step in and help make decisions for you if you can't do that for yourself. And as I mentioned, in Massachusetts, it is a must that that person's name goes in the healthcare proxy in that document. Number 2 is really a what matters to me question, and have people take a minute to say, what is it? How is it I want to be cared for? What do I want people to do? And to be able to write down what matters to folks and some instructions for care in that personal directive. And number 3, we always include here, it's amazing how many people still think, well, if I do the document, I can just put it on my refrigerator, I'm good. And it doesn't ever get to you. So we always remind folks that we need to put this plan into action and to give the documents to their providers and then start a conversation about what it is they want for care. That's what that toolkit does, and it's been very useful for the ambassadors. So you can use it just by sending it to folks or start a conversation on that first step. And this is how it works. Very straightforward, but step 1 is the who's your agent question. And that is really about choosing that person you trust to be your agent. And once you open that conversation, one of the things the ambassadors have found out pretty quickly is about 30% of the folks can't do a healthcare proxy. There are a few reasons for it. The big one is they're not able to choose someone. And what the ambassadors do so well is to say, you know what, that's okay. You are not able to choose an agent. Let's just start with step 2, and you start with the personal directive. Because one of the most important things for folks is to say, you know, we need to know what you want for care in an emergency, and we can write that down in a personal directive. And that really is a very inclusive message to bring everybody into this process. But if they can choose an agent, that's terrific. And we encourage them to talk to that agent about the care that they want, and then to appoint that agent in a healthcare proxy. And Mass law is really very particular around this, and I'm sure you've run into this, that a spouse, a family member, a friend does not automatically have that legal authority to make those healthcare decisions unless their name is in that healthcare proxy. And that becomes an issue, I think, on transfer from hospitals to post-acute, as well as right down the care continuum. So that's why it's so important for us to start this simple conversation and see if we can get this in place. The big question that comes to us from consumers, that's what we call them, or patients, is this confusion around what an agent actually does. You know, we had a gentleman most recently say, you know, I'm not doing a healthcare proxy. Everybody always asks me, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to give my rights away. And that's what his thought was, that it was going to stop him from making choices. So once he understood that it's the agent who makes the decisions that you want, not what your agent wants, and that he holds that right all the time, and the agent only steps in when that person is unable to make or communicate decisions, that was a game changer for that gentleman. And he did a healthcare proxy with it for his primary care person. And it is a very powerful role, though, the agent has, as you know. They can talk to all of you, be able to talk about a person's values, their priorities, their care preferences. They can learn about people's conditions and illnesses and what the options are for treatment, and look at those medical records. And it is under the law that agent makes the decisions based on the adult's care preferences, in consultation, of course, with the provider. And one of the things people have trouble with understanding is when that agent steps back, when that agent doesn't have power any longer. And it's pretty automatic. I realized that when my mother was in the hospital not too long ago, she was worried about that. She was a very independent woman, wanted to make her own decisions. And it was a very simple test of who are you, where you are. And, you know, as long as people can come back and understand their basic surroundings, and can make some decisions, they don't have to make all of them, then they're back to making their own decision and the agent steps back. A big question that's come up lately is what happens when that, can an adult override that agent if the agent has been invoked? So you have a healthcare agent now who is making the decisions because there's been a medical determination in the record by the attending physician that a person no longer has the ability to make their own decisions. So that's what invokes that healthcare agent, right? But still, even the adult can override that agent's decisions. They can object to them. They can say, look, I don't want to do what my agent wants me to do, unless there's been a court proceeding where the court determines that that person has incapacity. And that's right in the law. And that presents an issue, but it's something for you to know as providers and advocates, that that person still has some rights unless the court has determined that incapacity. Any questions about that or others?
So actually, there's a question in the chat, Ellen, and I'll read it. This comes from Deborah. She says, at the adult daycare center where she works, we have approximately 80–90% of clients who have healthcare proxy, which is good. Our challenge is that families now believe they can make all decisions for the client. It gets messy with clients with dementia and Alzheimer's, and when can they make their own decisions versus the named family member, and when they have the right to decide. So she asks, do you have resources available for us to support the client's ability in, for example, defining when a client is unable to make their own decision?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you. It's a multi-level question here, but maybe a few pieces of the law might help, because that's what when it gets messy like this, that's what we default to, Massachusetts law, because it's very clear in terms of that. So they have healthcare proxies, which is they have an agent named, which is good. And then families believe they can make all the decisions. That happens a lot. And that's why we use this statement about your agent makes the decisions that you want, not what the agent wants. We do have a lot of well-meaning family members who want to make those decisions before that person has let go or, you know, is deemed incapacitated. I think that's how I'm reading it. So what we have to remind folks of is they don't have that ability. They certainly can influence and help decisions, but it's the person who retains the right to have those decisions until that agent is invoked. And as we said, even when that happens, that person has rights. We do have some resources for you. I am going to point you to the resources page and see if you can find some specific information there. But I'm also happy, Adam, to connect with this person afterwards and learn a little bit more, especially with dementia and Alzheimer's. We're doing a lot of work with the Dementia and Alzheimer's associations, and it's tough to be able to work with family members and that. So why don't it's a great question. Take a look at the resources page, and then if not, please let me, I'm gonna give you my email and we'll be able to find some better resources for you. Okay, so we are looking at a healthcare agent. So what our ambassadors do is start a 2 to 3 minute conversation. That's all this is. That's what we're talking about when we talk about a simple step or a simple conversation. And this is one way to do it. If you get sick and cannot make health care decisions yourself, even for a short time while you recover, that's a key phrase for people. That's about control, that it may not be permanent. Who would you choose to be your agent? A person you trust to make decisions for you. And you can go through some of the examples of that people can choose anyone they want, 18 and older. It doesn't have to be family. And if there is someone that's obvious, what our ambassadors do, if it's in the scope of their role, is to say, would you like to look at a healthcare proxy today? Can I give you one? Would you like to complete one? It just depends on what you're able to do. And that seems to be really useful to people, that bridge and getting that done. Now, you're also going to hear, look, I just don't have anyone to choose. And that's where you can say, you know what, that's okay. Let's start with the personal directive. Let's give you one of those and I'll tell you how to use it. And that again is a very inclusive, very quick conversation. We know how much, how important it is that this proxy can avoid guardianship down the road. And again, that has really been holding up a lot of very smooth care transitions from hospital to post-acute, but really right down the care transition settings. So that's why it's so important we can do this together. So on our website, you will see under that resources page, 2 really clear things. We have some videos for how to choose a healthcare agent. It's in a few subtitles with translations. You can feel free to look at this yourself and just send it to a patient. And then the other idea is once they choose someone, filling out that healthcare proxy. Now we offer this to everyone right across the state. It's in now 15 translated languages. And what we say at Honoring Choices is you use whatever healthcare proxy works for you. So your hospital might have one that you prefer, of course, use that one. But here's a backup one for you. It's a 1-pager. It comes in many languages, as I say, and so it's been useful across the board. This you can use with any healthcare proxy, and it's been a really interesting thing to motivate folks to do a healthcare proxy. So we still need a legal document, but this is an informational card that says, I have a healthcare proxy, and it's a wallet card. And what it's been doing, it's been helping our medical personnel, whether it's EMS or folks in the ED, be able to say, okay, this person has an agent, let's give them a call. So this is in your Getting Started toolkit, and basically it's a download on a regular piece of paper of a very long rectangle that gets folded in 3. And right in the middle is where you write in the name, your name and your agent's name and phone numbers, and an alternate if you have one. It comes in 6 languages. It's been really incredible to help people, especially people who, are older or may have some complicating illnesses, to feel a little safer. We certainly had a gentleman daughter call us recently to say how thank you for the card, because her father went shopping. He slipped, fell, and hit his head, and EMS came to pick him up. They not sure who he is, so they look in his wallet. There's the card. They gave her a phone call, the daughter, as the healthcare agent, and she was able to meet them at the hospital. So it's a lovely little transition, and that piece of safety seems to help people feel better about this. So feel free to use it. Make as many as you want. If you're using your hospital documents, there's no problem with that. So what if you're talking to someone and you say, who would you choose as your agent? And they say, look, I just don't have anyone to choose. No agent. And that's where the ambassadors have been wonderful to say, that's okay. Don't worry about that. People feel bad about not having an agent. We've heard from a lot of our older citizens at this point in time that, it's just really hard, yet they feel very unprotected for not having an agent. So we start with this, and this has been really effective for a long time. Our personal directive, which I'll show you in a minute, is just that. It's a personal statement about if I get sick tomorrow and I can't make decisions for myself, here's the kind of care I'd like. Here's how I want you to take care of me. So we find that this personal directive has been very popular, certainly with people who can't appoint someone. There's just no one to appoint, and adults who have limits to decision-making ability, folks with advanced dementia or uh, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Not everybody, right? It's very individual, but at some point they may not have that ability to do the form anymore. And very important, it seems lately, many multicultural families or families that have someone in their family with complex medical conditions, they prefer to start with a conversation rather than a healthcare proxy form or appoint an agent. They want to talk about um, what's important, what do we need to do in case of emergency, and then they go to an agent. So you can always start with this personal directive. It doesn't matter where people start, it's wherever they want. I'm going to show you the personal directive, and I see there's a question, but let me do this first. So in that getting started toolkit, step 2 is what matters to me, and that's where you'll see this personal directive. And again, the message is the most important thing is it's great if you have an agent, that's terrific. This personal directive then becomes instructions for the agent to know what to do in an emergency situation. If you don't have an agent, this is great for your primary care doctor and others to know what's important to you. And that's how it works. So step 2 in the getting started toolkit is just thinking about those values, those beliefs, concerns. We've found over the years, and I'm sure you see it too, that people really have a sense of the care that they want and the care they don't want. So it's already in process in their minds. And it's great if they can talk to you, they can talk to their agent or people who support them, and then to write that down in this personal directive. So let me show you what it looks like. And again, this is something you can just give to folks. You don't have to do it with them. You can kick it off and get it started and saying, this is a personal document. It's not legal. It's good to say that. And all that again means is in Massachusetts, it doesn't bind the doctors to do exactly what's on this page. However, we do have a broader law that says if our care clinicians and doctors know what we want for care, their job is to do the best they can to align care with our choices. That's a general law, right? We always have a right to accept treatment and refuse treatment. So it's part of that. So the personal directive on the first page just we start with who the person is, but we always start with the personal preferences and thoughts and beliefs. And those are some questions that to set off conversations or for people to write things down here. They can write on the back, they can skip it. This is personal. They can do whatever they want with this document. But it talks about everyday care as well as end of life care as well. Number 2 has been very helpful for, was a kind of a surprise to us that whether people have an agent or not, there seems to be people around them they'd like to inform if they end up in a hospital situation or sick. And it's a great place for people to write that down. We also see a lot of personal messages here. That if I get sick tomorrow, can you tell my neighbor Gladys to take care of my cat? And that helps people. It helps people get in an ambulance sometimes to know that that's taken care of. So there are personal messages here as well. This has been I'm going to show you page 2, but just want to mention this is a very helpful document for adults with a range of cognitive abilities because they may not be able to start with an agent, but they certainly can to talk about even very lightly, their likes and dislikes, how they want to be cared for in an emergency situation. You can use the document this way. This is page 2, and that's where we start with the medical care and people's choices and treatment preferences. people know a lot about their care. We really find this in talking to consumers all the time. And they may want to write down their medical conditions, their medications, where they prefer to go to be treated. This has been especially helpful for people with behavioral health issues with a history of that, and to be more directive about where they want to be treated. The life-sustaining uh, treatment sections really came about because our older citizens who, they're in their 80s and they're doing okay, but they realized they could get in trouble pretty fast, and they wanted to indicate what they wanted if they had to face a CPR decision. And they weren't really ready. They didn't have a serious illness, so they couldn't do a MOLS form yet. So this is what this section is here for. People can put in any messages they want. They sign it, they date it. Again, no witnesses here because it's personal. The trick to this document is to keep it updated, right? As people's healthcare changes, so do their preferences. So it's been very useful, I think, for families as well to have this document. It helps with conversations, and you can feel free to give it to folks that way. And then step 3 in the Getting Started Toolkit really just involves you, all of you. We're really making sure people understand that even, do one document, let's make sure we put that plan into action. And it's amazing how many of our older folks don't still have that disconnect because they just weren't taught this idea that we have to get it into the medical record for it to really be a very powerful document for them. So the other thing we've learned is when folks just even do one document like a healthcare proxy, it gets them all fired up and empowered to really have conversations with folks. We've seen this over and over again, that as they're bringing in their healthcare proxy to put in the medical record, they start a conversation about how they're feeling, and it gives you an opening to talk about everyday care and what's ahead for folks. So the last thing in the Getting Started Toolkit for consumers is they asked us a long time ago to give us an idea of what to talk about when they had a session with their primary care or others. So we came up in talking with them with the 5 things to talk about with your care providers. And it is what you see in the blue lettering there, those words, those are actually people's rights. We all have a very important right to get information, enough information, adequate information in a way we can understand in order to make care choices. So in offering that, the topic sentences there, that sometimes that first talking point just helps open up a conversation. It's a very popular one with consumers. I just want to understand more about my health, and here's what I want to know today. And let's talk about what's ahead for me. And then you see people can pick and choose in the guide depending on where they are. Some people might want to go right to the goals to say, here's what's important to me, here's what I'm worried about, and make some care goals. Some people are ready to go to the plan. And the whole point is that we can all understand and know people's choices and then be able to honor them. So this is the consumer guide, but we have a guide for you too. This mirrors that consumer guide, and it's the same questions. It's just from your perspective. So we have heard from our ambassadors that this has been useful to just put into their scope of their role, or use some of the questions to add to their script, and use it that way, please. If you find something is useful there, that's what it's there for. So that's the guide for the ambassadors as well. So that's the Getting Started Toolkit, and that's the main tool that we use for our ambassadors. And you can see it's pretty straightforward. We hope having the kit makes it easier for you, and having that healthcare proxy in 15 translated languages is helpful, as well as the wallet card. If you happen to be working with folks who are subject to or under guardianship or conservatorship, we've got a new web page for you that might help information-wise. It took us a while to put this together because it's a little tough, guardianship and conservatorship. As strong as the law is, there's a lot of information about it. So it's there for you, some basic definitions, some basic process information, and we're starting to build a section out on alternatives so that we don't need to go to a guardianship or conservatorship. So take a look and we'll come back to you more. We're working with Adam and MHA on developing a lot of this as we go forward. I'll just stop for a second and see if there's any thoughts or questions around other things you've been running into with the proxy or the personal directive.
So Ellen, Michelle just posted in the chat. She indicated that they encourage individuals to text a picture of their completed healthcare proxy, and then send it to the agent, and to also keep it on their phone in their documents.
That's a great idea, Michelle. The issue we have with that is that we have heard from some hospitals that they need to be able to download that healthcare proxy and not just have it on the phone in order for people to follow it. I don't know if you've also run into that, but having it there is a wonderful thing. We hear people are putting it in their ICE sections on their phones, their emergency sections as well. So, you know, anything that helps is a wonderful thing. Thank you for that. Okay. So we have them email us. Yeah, right. Wonderful. Great. So you have a copy of it. That's terrific. That's a great suggestion of making sure it's on the phone. I think, you know, it's still up to all of us. We do not have the cloud yet that will hold the healthcare proxy. We may in the next few years. But right now we don't. So it is still up to all of us to make sure that proxy is, you know, available on the phone. We have a hard copy in people's pocketbooks and wallets and in their cars. So anything helps. So I want to, in the remaining time, also make sure you know where the rest of our tools are as you talk with people who you can do that simple step and help with the healthcare proxy and the personal directive, but you also then might have a person who is really managing chronic illness or is in a serious illness care situation where they're going to want to talk more. And so we want you to have the tools that we have that we've been working on with Ariadne Labs and the Serious Illness Conversation Guide tools and some others so that you can flow into those or just know where those tools are today. So the second half of this process really deals with that. Where all the conversation guides are to talk to all of you about the goals and priorities for people who then are in a serious illness care mode to think about what's next with the MOLS form, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. And then again, yet again, for people who are at that hospice position of 6 months or less of life. And that's why that triangle, that inverted triangle really looks like this, that's the smallest part of what we do. And that really, again, lends these tools to you as ambassadors. So the Next Steps Toolkit for Honoring Choices, you'll see it on the website, and I'll show you in summary what it is. It's a little different. You can download it, but it's actually more individual for your patients and your families. This is to build on those conversations and to update that plan as we go. So you'll see the toolkit really then starts to work on these seamless planning conversations. So you can go from that healthcare proxy to really talking about what's going on with someone who's managing chronic illness. We have more conversation guides. We're going to show you some documents. And again, that third step is always the same, is how do we make sure that consumers are working, or we call them consumers, patients are working with you to get that care. So you'll see on our website, we have a whole series of conversation guides that you can use and add to your script or use as is. Our primary care doctors are giving this out and putting them in waiting rooms. The idea is, how do we make it easier to have more effective conversations? What are the important pieces of those conversations? And then to use them over time to ensure, as the healthcare needs change, those preferences typically change under the research we look at, and keeping things up to date. So you see, for you, we've got guides 1 to 4, that it's that same format, but the questions change. And so we've, developed this with our providers over time. They've told us the important conversations, and you'll see them here. The last guide is about palliative care, which seems to be useful for providers and for consumers. And we have the consumer guides to match it. So feel free to use them and adopt the questions as you like them. They're there for you. And then the last, you'll see that the planning documents can grow and change over time. We want to just emphasize that durable power of attorney again, and then the last two documents are the medical documents. In working with Adam and working with the throughput survey, we learned a few years ago that the second or third biggest reason for delay in hospital discharge to post-acute was the healthcare proxy and the issues around guardianship and conservatorship. So this is the one that really helps us avoid conservatorship. What we offer here is just a fact sheet. Durable power of attorneys are legal documents, as you know, and that's where you appoint a trusted person to manage and your finances, protect your money, be able to write checks, be able to sign contracts for healthcare. Really important person to have. If someone doesn't have that person assigned, if they haven't been able to choose that person, um, the next option in this state is some alternatives to that, but it also could be a legal proceeding called a conservatorship. And if at all possible, we really don't want to get here. This can take even longer than a guardianship and be more expensive and really delays people's care, as well as it's just a difficult situation. So if you happen to be working with someone where you see their medical diagnosis is one where their capacity is going to, their ability to make decisions is going to wane, it's going to change. If someone is at that point where they have a disability right now, where they're not able to really manage their money well, that's a point you can do a durable power of attorney. You don't have to have an incapacity, you can just have a disability. We still recommend people do this with an attorney if they can, and some of the best ways we have found to do that is for folks to contact their local council on agings or other community groups, because they often, and we've been working with the COAs across the state for many years, and they often have referrals to folks where you can ask the attorney just to do this document and not a larger set of things. So I want to just offer that to you because I think in the long run, we need to elevate this in order to make for smoother care transitions. And you all, I'm sure, are familiar with medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. Been around a while now. It's still going to be valid for a while. And it is for adults with serious illness and advancing frailty. Just as a review, the people who can sign are the MD, the NP, and the PA, and I get to say those terms to you because you know what they mean. And the idea is always around the conversation first, right? We were saying you have to sit down. What we tell consumers is can't do this on your own. You work with your clinician, you work with the person to be able to give you information about your prognosis. And in doing that, you talk about benefits and risks. And it is the patient who can choose the A, B, and C of this. And then, of course, it's the clinician who has to fill out the form, who signs it, and then it's the person or the person's agent who signs it. We know that in this state that if someone is under guardianship, the guardian needs to seek an extended court hearing to get permission from the court in order to sign this form, and that can certainly back up care. But that's how the form works, and I'm sure that MHA is going to be on top of the new Pulse transition, and so are we. So we'll hear the latest of when things change with this form. And two last pieces we want to offer to you that are just easy tools for you to reach to. If you're working with people with serious illness, this is a great tool for patients and families if you haven't seen it. That's put together by Ariadne Labs and the Conversation Project. It's a workbook so that adults can prepare for planning conversations. And it's called What Matters to Me. And it's in several languages. It's on our website, and you can also reach it through those other websites as well. It's a great guide to get people prepared and to take some of the worry out of this. And the other companion piece here, Serious Illness Conversation Tools for you, for care professionals, is the Ariadne Labs Serious Illness Conversation Guide. So as you see, all our tools work seamlessly with this guide. They're really interchangeable. So we're very excited about working together on this. But this guide has been tried and true here. And I'm sure many of you know about it. Probably some of you use it. But I just want to show it to you for some people haven't found it yet. And it's free, and it's something you can use. It's patient tested language from this group that said, what are the the central questions and the process that one can use when having a serious illness conversation. And the way it really works is to go through it in the order that it's set up for you, but you can also pick and choose. And if you're in this mode and talking to folks, you can add some of these questions to your script. We'll just leave it there for you. We don't have time to go through it today, but I want you to be aware of it. It's on our website, and it's certainly, you can download it right from Ariadne Labs. They also have wonderful videos there and a lot of information if you're in this serious illness conversation process with folks. And that's really it. We wanted to, again, welcome you to be an ambassador, and I know you do this work every day. We hope some of these tools will really help make these simple conversations easier for the Take a Simple Step campaign. Everything is on our website here, and we just want to start simply. What we did not too long ago was to redo our Quick Start page. So the Quick Start page is the quick and easy way to just focus on choosing an agent and completing a proxy. And you'll see the step one is the choose the agent. And so we have those videos right there on that page. The documents are there, and the mention to make sure you're sharing this and getting it in the medical record. Not able to choose an agent, the personal directive is right there. So it's a very easy start for you, and you can just hold all the other tools at bay. But this is the page I would recommend you go to. And I wanted to mention this as well. The Simple Step campaign, Adam and group and Honoring Choices worked with the state recently in a South Shore project. But in working with the Department of Public Health, we came up with a consumer handout, which echoes everything we just talked about. It's a one-page handout, which just gets people right to the healthcare proxy. It's in 9 languages, so you should feel free to use it any way you like. You can add it to your programs, put it in your admission packet, whatever makes it simple for people to get here themselves, and they can do that with that QR code on the bottom. And that's really it. Everything we talked about today is on that resources page. We're very happy to keep developing tools with you to make, as things come up for you, to make things simpler and really increase the quality and the smoothness of care transitions. And I want to say thank you so much for doing this work. If you like, we're going to send you all a Healthcare Planning Ambassador certificate. Again, it's yours to use or not, but it's been very popular in saying to folks, we now have the most reliable, accurate information out there. There's so much misinformation still, and you can feel, really secure in this. Any questions, any thoughts? I'm always at the end of an email. As I said, you're a very valued partner at MHA for 12 years now, so we're always happy to talk to you.
Ellen, thank you so much for including and providing us with all this information in these handy tools. We really do appreciate it. I know that there's a lot that our attendees are going to be taking back to their organizations already. As we kind of wait for questions to come in here from the members, I wanted to ask you one quick question. You're out there talking to folks around the state. You speak to consumer organizations. You're speaking to aging services organizations. What's the most common question that you get from folks when you're out there talking to folks in the field?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the still most common misperception is people need a lawyer to do this healthcare proxy. And that's part of why our ambassadors are out there saying, you can do this on your own. The law actually says you can do it yourself. You just need 2 witnesses in front of you, 2 people who are sitting in front of you. And as you sign the healthcare proxy, they sign it with you, and you have a valid proxy. And that's just not something people know yet. So that's why the Simple Step campaign is so great, to be able to offer that out to folks.
Awesome. We're still waiting for additional questions. If any other members or folks here have any additional questions that they'd like to submit, you can please feel free to put it into the webinar chat, and we'll read them off here to Ellen as part of this work. Ellen, quick question. The validity of a healthcare proxy, are they recognized in other states?
A good question, Adam. So the way it works is what we've found in practice is that in the New England states, the Massachusetts healthcare proxy law is similar to the law in the other New England states. And so it's readily recognized in those states. The way it's supposed to work is if the laws are similar, the documents are supposed to be honored. But in practice, the farther people get out from Massachusetts, sometimes they have trouble. So we've learned from the folks who go to Florida for 6 months that their Massachusetts healthcare proxy isn't always honored. So they do a Florida healthcare proxy, and they make sure they put the same agent in, and then they're pretty assured of that. True for people who are in California as well. Definitely, it's something to consider until we are able to get the laws to line up better. It's always best to do a few proxies if you need to.
That's a great recommendation, and I hadn't really thought of that. So that's something I do really appreciate a lot. One other question I wanted to ask you here. We're not getting too many questions in the chat, so you really must have covered a lot. And I'll make this the final question here, unless folks enter something else in there. We've talked a little bit about virtual completion of healthcare proxies. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of like, do you obviously have to have the 2 witnesses, and does the healthcare proxy need to be present when you complete your healthcare proxy, and can they be there virtually? Like what do you recommend for folks as the best practice?
Yeah. Again, our laws haven't changed to keep up with technology. So you can always download the proxy and not have the healthcare agent does not need to be present at all when you're doing your healthcare proxy. You just need, the person who's the signer and 2 witnesses. The agent is not necessary there. The key to that is to make sure the witnesses are not people who are also you're choosing as your agent or your healthcare your alternate agent. You can't be a witness and an agent at the same time. During COVID, sometimes we could kind of do it online, but that's not true anymore. The idea is that we don't have a law that talks about virtual completion or honoring electronic signatures yet. Something we're like to work on to make this easier to do.
All right. And I think we'd be happy to work with you on some of those issues as well. And so thank you. Really appreciate it. We're coming up on time right now. So I just want to thank Ellen once again for leading a great presentation and a great session today. Ellen, we'll put her email in the chat. Actually, I'll put it in the chat. It might be even quicker because we can get that out to everybody right away if folks want to contact Ellen. We have already put the web addresses for both Honoring Choices Massachusetts and MHA's Simple Stamp campaign, our website there in the chat as well. And Ellen's email is right there in the chat too. And we want to remind folks, scan the QR code on your screen right now to see all of MHA's upcoming educational programming. And I'd like to put in a special plug for our Post-Acute Care Summit that's coming up on June 10th. It's a virtual event that will be from 9 to 12:30 p.m. So please feel free to join us for that event. We're really excited about it. It is now our 3rd event that we've done, and thank you so much for joining us today. I do really appreciate it. And please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments afterwards. We will distribute the slides from today's presentation by way of email, and also send around a brief evaluation as well. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks all.
Thank you, Alan.